The kingdom of Judah, located in the southern region of ancient Israel, was established after the division of the United Kingdom of Israel following the death of King Solomon. While the northern kingdom, Israel, faced multiple dynasties and political instability, Judah maintained a relatively stable Davidic line of succession. Jerusalem, the capital of Judah, was the religious and political center of the kingdom, housing the temple built by Solomon, which became the central symbol of the Jewish faith. Judah has experienced periods of prosperity and decline over the centuries. Kings such as Asa, Jehoshaphat, and Hezekiah were recognized for their attempts at religious and political reform. However, the nation also faced significant challenges, including idolatry, social injustice, and the constant threat of foreign powers. The rise of the Neo-Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar II in the 6th century BC represented an existential challenge for Judah. The Neo-Babylonian Empire, under the leadership of Nebuchadnezzar II, emerged as the dominant power in the Near East after the fall of the Assyrian Empire. Nebuchadnezzar II, one of Babylon's most famous monarchs, is remembered for his military conquests, including the defeat of Egypt at the Battle of Carchemish in 605 BC, and for his architectural achievements, including the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. With the consolidation of Babylonian power, Nebuchadnezzar turned his attention to the region of Canaan, where the kingdom of Judah was located. Judah's strategic geographic position, situated between the powers of Egypt and Babylon, made the kingdom a frequent point of conflict. One of the main factors that led to the fall of Jerusalem was the rebellion of the kingdom of Judah against Babylonian rule. After the first Babylonian invasion in 597 BC, during which King Jehoiakim was deposed and exiled, Zedekiah was installed as a vassal king in Jerusalem. However, Zedekiah, encouraged by pro-Egyptian parties and the hope of support from Egypt, ended up rebelling against Nebuchadnezzar. Zedekiah's decision to rebel was disastrous. Nebuchadnezzar, determined to reaffirm his control over the region, mobilized his army to subdue Jerusalem. Zedekiah's rebellion not only sealed his own fate, but also that of the people of Judah, who would face unprecedented devastation. The prophet Jeremiah played a crucial role in the events leading up to the fall of Jerusalem. He is often called the weeping prophet due to his lamentations about the impending destruction of Jerusalem and the suffering of the people. Jeremiah repeatedly warned the kings and people of Judah about the consequences of their disobedience to God and their inclination toward idolatry. Jeremiah urged Judah's leaders to submit to the Babylonian yoke as an inevitable divine punishment. However, his prophecies were not well received. He faced opposition, arrest, and even assassination attempts. The rejection of Jeremiah's warnings and the persistence in rebellion against Babylon are seen as spiritual factors that contributed to the fall of Jerusalem. The prophet Jeremiah played a crucial role in the events leading up to the fall of Jerusalem. He is often called the weeping prophet due to his lamentations about the impending destruction of Jerusalem and the suffering of the people. Jeremiah repeatedly warned the kings and people of Judah about the consequences of their disobedience to God and their inclination toward idolatry. Jeremiah urged Judah's leaders to submit to the Babylonian yoke as an inevitable divine punishment. However, his prophecies were not well received. He faced opposition, arrest, and even assassination attempts. The rejection of Jeremiah's warnings and the persistence in rebellion against Babylon are seen as spiritual factors that contributed to the fall of Jerusalem. Nebuchadnezzar's siege of Jerusalem began in 589 BC and lasted approximately 18 months. The siege was a brutal military operation, characterized by the complete isolation of the city. The Babylonians cut off supply routes, causing hunger and despair among the inhabitants of Jerusalem. The Book of Lamentations, traditionally attributed to Jeremiah, vividly describes the suffering of the people during the siege. Severe famine led to cannibalism, and the city was in a state of moral and physical collapse. Constant pressure and deteriorating defenses eventually allowed the Babylonians to penetrate the city walls. In 586 BC, Babylonian forces finally captured Jerusalem. Nebuchadnezzar ordered the complete destruction of the city. Solomon's temple, a central symbol of the Jewish faith and God's presence among his people, was set on fire and destroyed. Palaces and fortifications were razed to the ground, and the city's treasures were plundered. King Zedekiah tried to escape but was captured. He was taken before Nebuchadnezzar, who ordered the execution of his sons in front of him and then blinded Zedekiah, taking him captive to Babylon. Many inhabitants of Jerusalem were killed, and a large part of the population was exiled to Babylon. Only the poorest in the land were left behind to tend the vineyards and fields. The immediate consequence of the fall of Jerusalem was the Babylonian exile, a period of approximately 70 years during which the Jewish elite lived in captivity in Babylon. This exile had a profound impact on the religious and cultural identity of the Jewish people. During this period, many of the biblical texts were compiled and written down, including significant parts of the Pentateuch and the prophets. Exile forced Jews to rethink their relationship with God, their land, and their religious practices. Without the temple, worship had to be adapted, leading to the creation of synagogues and a greater focus on Torah and prayer. This period also saw the strengthening of prophetic traditions and the consolidation of Jewish identity around the Mosaic Law. The destruction of the First Temple was a devastating blow to Judaism. The temple was not just a place of worship, but the center of Judah's religious, social, and economic life. Its destruction symbolized the loss of divine presence among the people and the interruption of the sacrifices and festivals that structured Jewish religious life. However, the loss of the temple also catalyzed important theological and liturgical developments. The concept of God not limited to a single physical location was reinforced, and the idea of a personal and direct relationship with God, independent of the temple, gained importance. Prophets like Ezekiel, who was among the exiles, offered visions of a restored future, with a new temple and spiritual renewal. The experience of exile and the destruction of Jerusalem had lasting effects on Jewish culture and religion. Forced dispersal resulted in the formation of Jewish communities outside of Israel, a phenomenon that would continue to expand over the centuries and which is known as the diaspora. These communities maintained their identities through observing the law, building synagogues, and studying the Torah. The post-exilic period saw a renewed commitment to the Mosaic Law and an emphasis on religious and moral purity. This period is also marked by the leadership of figures such as Ezra and Nehemiah, who promoted the reconstruction of Jerusalem and the Second Temple. The events surrounding the fall of Jerusalem are extensively documented in the books of 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, and Jeremiah.